Dear friends, today we are discussing about oral language. Oral language is a system through which we use spoken words to express knowledge, ideas and feelings. Developing oral language then means developing the skills and knowledge that go into listening and speaking, all of which have a strong relationship to reading comprehension and to writing. According to Mott's, oral language is the makeup of at least 5 key components. They are phonological skills, pragmatics, syntax, morphological skills and vocabulary. All of these components of oral language are necessary to communicate and learn through concentration and spoken interaction. But there are important distinctions among them that we have implications for literary instruction. Students' skill in the domain of syntax, morphology and pragmatics are central for putting together and taking apart the meaning of sentences and paragraph both for oral and written dialogue. Let us see the first one. The word phonology comes from ancient Greek word phon, means voice or sound, and then the suffix logi, which is from Greek. It means word, speech or subject of discussion. Definition of the terms will be vary. Nicolai defines phonology as the study of sound pertaining to the system of language as opposed to phonetics, which is phonetics, which is the study of sound pertaining to the act of speech. More recently, Lass in 1998 writes the phonology refers to broadly to the subdiscipline of linguistics concerned with the sounds of language, while in more narrow terms phonology proper is concerned with the function, behavior and organization of sound as linguistic items. According to Clark 2017, it means the systematic use of sound to encode meaning in any spoken human language or the field of linguistics studying in this use. Phonology involves the rules, structure and sequence of speech sounds. A student's phonological skills are those that give her an awareness of the sounds of language, such as the sounds of syllables and rhymes. In addition to being important for oral language development, these skills play a foundational role in supporting word reading development. In the early stages of learning how to read words, children are often encouraged to sound out of the words. English speaking peers develop phonological skills at similar levels, and in both groups these skills are mastered by the early elementary grades. Okay students, now you can watch what is phonology.
What is phonology? Phonology is a branch of linguistics concerned with the systematic organization of sounds in languages. It has traditionally focused largely on the study of the systems of phonemes in particular languages, but it may also cover any linguistic analysis either at a level beneath the word, including syllable, onset and rhyme, articulatory gestures, articulatory features, mora, etc., or at all levels of language where sound is considered to be structured for conveying linguistic meaning. Phonology also includes the study of equivalent organizational systems in sign languages. The word phonology, as in the phonology of English, can also refer to the phonological system that is sound system of a given language. This is one of the fundamental systems which a language is considered to comprise, like its syntax and its vocabulary. Phonology is often distinguished from phonetics. While phonetics concerns the physical production, acoustic transmission and perception of the sounds of speech, phonology describes the way sounds function within a given language or across languages to encode meaning. For many linguists, phonetics belongs to descriptive linguistics, and phonology to theoretical linguistics, although establishing the phonological system of a language is necessarily an application of theoretical principles to analysis of phonetic evidence. Note that this distinction was not always made, particularly before the development of the modern concept of the phoneme in the mid-20th century. Some subfields of modern phonology have a crossover with phonetics in descriptive disciplines such as psycholinguistics and speech perception, resulting in specific areas like articulatory phonology or laboratory phonology. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.
Grammar is another component. The word grammar is derived from Greek, which means art of letters. It involves two parts. The first one is syntax. It is the rules in which words are arranged into sentences. The second, morphology. It is the use of grammatical markers indicating tense, active or passive voice, etc. Syntax refers to an understanding of word order and grammatical rules. For example, consider the following two sentences. Sentence 1, the relationships are preserved only with care and attention. Then see the second sentence, only with the care and attention our relationships are preserved. In these two cases, although the word orders are different, the sentences communicate the same message. In the other case, slight change in the word order alters a sentence meaning. For example, the sentence, the simmer passed the canoe. Sentence 2, the canoe passed the simmer. Then next component is morphology. It refers to smallest meaningful parts from which words are created, including roots, suffixes, prefixes, etc. When a reader stumbles upon an unfamiliar word, an awareness of how a particular prefix or suffix might change in the meaning of change the meaning of a word, or how two words with the same root may relate to meaning to each other. Each other supports her ability to infer the meaning of unfamiliar words. Next, okay, now we can watch about a short video about grammar.
In linguistics, grammar is a set of structural rules governing the composition of clauses, phrases, and words in any given natural language. The term refers also to the study of such rules, and this field includes morphology, syntax, and phonology, often complemented by phonetics, semantics, and pragmatics. The term grammar is often used by non-linguists with a very broad meaning. As Jeremy Butterfield puts it, grammar is often a generic way of referring to any aspect of English that people object to. However, linguists use it in a much more specific sense. Speakers of a language have a set of internalized rules for using that language. This is grammar, and the vast majority of the information in it is acquired, at least in the case of one's native language, not by conscious study or instruction, but by observing other speakers. Much of this work is done during early childhood. Learning a language later in life usually involves a greater degree of explicit instruction. The term grammar can also be used to describe the rules that govern the linguistic behavior of a group of speakers. The term English grammar, therefore, may have several meanings. It may refer to the whole of English grammar, that is, to the grammars of all the speakers of the language, in which case, the term encompasses a great deal of variation. The word grammar is derived from Greek grammatic techn, which means art of letters, from gramma, letter, itself from graphine, to draw, to write. The same Greek root also appears in graphics, grapheme, and photograph.
The word pragmatics derived from Latin language pragmaticos, and it means that amongst others, or fit for action, which comes from deed, the word deed. Pragmatics involves the rules for appropriate and effective communication. It involves three skills: using language for greeting, demanding, etc., changing language for talking differently depending upon who it is you are talking to, and following rules such as turn taking, staying on the topic. Each component has its own appropriate developmental periods. Generally, it refers to an understanding of the social rules of communication. So, for example, pragmatics involves how we talk when we have a particular purpose, how we communicate when we are engaging with a particular audience, and what we say when we find ourselves in a particular context, engaging in a casual conversation versus delivering a public speech. Pragmatics play a role in reading comprehension because much of making meaning from text depends upon having the right ideas about the norms and conventions for interacting with others. To understand feelings, reactions, and dilemmas among characters or populations, for example, even to make inferences and predictions, the reader has to be part of the social world of the text for effective comprehension. Just watch a video about the pragmatic language.
When we use language to communicate with each other, we can use it in an unbelievable variety of ways. We can be humorous, we can be disciplinary, we can be informative, we can be flirtatious. The number of functions that language has are many, 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 and babies can use them very early on. They can actually, and we can as parents, differentiate the purpose of the cry, the nature of the cry. Who is wet, who is hungry, who is uncomfortable, who is frightened. And fairly soon, babies can tune in to the intonation patterns that communicate your affect, so that you can use your voice in a very lighthearted way to tell your baby that, oh my goodness, you are absolutely bald as a cue ball. You look just like your grandpa, you bald little thing. And the baby won't know that he's been insulted because you're using that lighthearted intonation, whereas none of us would even think to shout, I love you, to a baby, because it would frighten the baby, though you were saying positive words. At a higher level, kids begin to be able to notice what your intention is, what another child's intention is, by the words they choose and the way they speak them, and what they do with their bodies. Their physical gestures, their facial gestures, and their vocal gestures. And for those children who cannot read this tiny nuance, who cannot catch that slightly arched eyebrow or that dismissive look, those children are in a much more difficult position to figure out what the language being said to them means and what they're supposed to do with it. So that part of language, that pragmatic, as it is all too often called, part of language, is the part that makes us interconnected and knowing what to say and to whom, how, in what situation, is a skill set that is difficult for many and comes oh so naturally and simply to others. For us as adults, we know that if you walk into a party and you don't know a single solitary soul, too many of us head directly towards the bar. But other people are quite comfortable walking up to a group of strangers and saying, hi, I'm Lydia Seufer. I don't know a soul here. May I join you? And there are not so many of us that have that comfort as people and have that verbal ability to make it sound real. So how we feel, as well as how we think, to a certain extent, predicates, dictates, leads us to use words in ways that make us feel more comfortable socially or less comfortable socially. Telling somebody how to say it is not the same thing as teaching them how to use the words for a variety of purposes in a variety of settings. A lot easier said than done.
Semantics is derived from ancient Greek word semantikos. It is the linguistic and philosophical study of meaning in language, programming language, or formal logics and semiotics. It is concerned with the relationship between signifiers like words, phrases, signs, and symbols. Semantic consists of vocabulary and how concepts are expressed through words. Vocabulary knowledge must be fostered from early childhood through adolescence. It means having the words to engage in dialogue. The vocabulary knowledge is also a key part of oral language. Vocabulary knowledge also referred to as semantic knowledge. It involves understanding the meanings of words and phrases and using those words and phrases to communicate effectively. Notably, vocabulary knowledge exists in degrees such that any learner has a particular level of knowledge of any given word. This begins with the words sounding familiar and moves toward the ability to use the word flexibly, even metaphorically, when speaking and writing. As we conclude the topic oral language, it is often associated with vocabulary as the main component. However, in the broadest definition, oral language consists of phonology, grammar, morphology, vocabulary, discourse and pragmatics. According to Fielding and others, the acquisition of these skills often begins at a young age, before the students begin focusing on print-based concepts such as sound symbol, correspondence and decoding. Because these skills are often developed early in life, children with limited oral language ability at time they enter the nursery school are normally at a distinct disadvantage.